if you're a young man on self-improvement, there's a good chance that you got onto it because of lack of love in your life. And unless you've made significant strides in your mental health or your self-image, or you've completely transformed your life to the point where you're completely satisfied with everything that you have in your life, you probably still struggle with craving love. And if you are, the answer lies in what I just said. You need to have a mentality shift and make significant strides in your self-image. So what do I mean by this? The mental state of being desperate for love itself it's a pathetic one, and you know it, right? The men you look up to, the kind of men you look up to, just thinking off the top of my head, your Thomas Shelby's, your James Bonds, your top level athletes like your Ronaldos or whatever it is. They're not craving love. You can't picture them being desperate for love because it's just not in what it's just not on the cards for them. Like they're focused on other things. Like their lives are fully revolved around their mission and achieving certain things, and everything else sort of comes along with it, right? Like James Bond doesn't struggle with women, bro. He's not up there busy thinking, oh, I'm so desperate to just have a girlfriend or anything like that. Like he's not thinking about that at all, right? He has this burning like desire and passion to achieve his mission, right? And like it's just something they don't do, right? And if you're someone that does actually like crave love like this, like if you think about it for a second, like the the whole thing of like, oh, I'm craving like love, or I really want to be in a relationship, or like dreaming about being in a relationship with somebody else, or and how your life would be different if you had them in your life or whatever. It's a feminine thing, right? It's like what women do, right? And it's okay if you have like a feminine temperament like that, like I do, right? It's something I've always been thinking about. It's something we have, right? But as a guy, what you need to realize that is if you want that, and if you just want to have a good life in general, you need to shift your mentality, right? Because guys like that have that kind of desperate mentality, they don't get it. Like you don't get it. Uh, you just don't. It's just a catch-22 of just the way life works, right? You need to focus on your craft, become a man like worth like women wanting to come into your life, right? Like that's just how it is. And yeah, like if you think about like the men I just spoke about, like your Thomas Shelby's or your James Bond or whatever, they they're not desperate for love or anything like that. They're desperate for other things such as success and power. And while those things might be linked to wanting approval, it's different from craving love, right? Because that's something that's like it's very masculine and it's actually like attractive. Like when women see that, it's like it's ambition. You're gonna achieve things in life, right? And you're gonna work to sort of build your competency, right? Whereas when you're craving love, it's like, oh, you're just hoping like just one girl will like you or whatever. It's yeah, it's not very, like I said, it's not very masculine. Now I spoke about how it's important for us to make like that mentality shift, right? Of from being like the guy who craves love and all of this to having like a Tommy Shelby like a mentality or a James Bond mentality, right? But how do we make that shift? Right, I mentioned earlier about self-image, and that is always going to be the answer. Self-image, 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 the way you see yourself, right? Now, how do you change your self-image? I've made quite a lot of videos this year. I was speaking about psycho-cybernetics and how you can like change your self-image, and how changing your self-image is the key to completely transforming your life, right? But in a nutshell, like changing your self-image, you need to do visualizations, right? Now, why visualizations, right? Your brain will always always align your actions in line with who you believe yourself to be, right? That's why, when you say, oh, I'm going to change my life, New Year's resolution, I'm going to change my life, I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to do all this, then the day comes, maybe you do for a couple of days, but eventually you always go back to where you were before. You always go back to eating like crap and like to your old habits and whatever. That's your brain. It's called the snapback effect. That's your brain pulling you back to who it believes you to be, right? And that needs to change, right? Because as much as we think of ourselves as like logical creatures, especially us men, we like to think like, oh, I'm very logical and everything, but no. Just no. Like 95, the research shows that like 95% of our actions are determined by our subconscious brain, right? So they're determined by your emotions, right? Because as humans, bro, you can't wake up and think about, oh, I'm jumping out of bed, I'm going to put my leg like this. I need to land my foot like this so that I don't roll my ankle. And then I need to move my upper body like this so I don't lose balance when I get up. Bro, you can't be thinking about that. Like your brain, there's too many things. So your brain relies on autopilot. That's how we're effective, right? That's how we learn to be effective as humans in general, right? So a lot of the things you do are subconscious, even going down to something as basic as eating, right? Like when you eat junk food or whatever it is, right? You can try and fight with logic and be like, I should be eating like this because it's healthy for me, it'll make me have like good skin or whatever. But if there's no emotional reason, like people speak about finding your why, if there's no emotional reason for you doing that, your brain is never gonna like change, right? It's always going to go back to eating that junk food because, you know, it's just what you do. It's like it's easier someone that eats junk food and the junk food is really nice and there's no reason for you not to do it, right? Or the reasons that you do have aren't strong enough, right? So you need like an emotional reason to really change your life. If you think about people that have changed their lives, like it's usually like they have like a canon event, you know, we speak about those things, right? They're people who something really bad has happened in their life and like it completely shifts them. That's because their mental state has been completely shifted. That subconscious brain of theirs has been emotionally affected. It's been like, damn, like life is this bad. If I don't fix my life now, like this is gonna go on forever. And that's something that hits them in the emotions, and they wake up every day and they've changed, right? But for you, you haven't had a canon event, but you want to change your life. How do you do that? How do you change your subconscious brain, right? Can you change your subconscious brain? And the good news is that you can, right? And the way you do it, as I said, is through visualizations. Right, now, why do visualizations work? The reason visualizations work is because your brain can't tell the difference between a lived experience and an imagined experience, right? It's just kind of like, think about like, I hate using this example because it's kind of crude, but like, yeah, think about like if you're masturbating, right, or something like that. You haven't like there's no girl like physically present, right, but you're still able to finish, right, let's say, right, that your brain cannot tell the difference, right? Like, and they've also done studies on like people, I don't know, there was some like big bombing or whatever that was massive in some country, and they did a study on like the brains of the people who were actually there at the bombing and the brains of the people that watched 15 minutes of news coverage about it for like 2 weeks every day. And the people that watched the news coverage had a more traumatic experience, a more traumatic reaction to the mention of that topic than the people who were actually there, right? Like your brain cannot tell the difference, right? It can't tell the difference, and this is how there's a lot of research on it, and if you're really interested, you can go and like watch like Dr. Joe Dispenza. He's been on a couple of podcasts. You can go watch that. You can go read Psychocybernetics, which I highly recommend, right? Or listen to the audiobook, right? But basically, the way you change your subconscious mind is visualizations, and you have to do like really vivid visualizations. Visualize yourself like being the person that you dream yourself to be, right? And if you want like more evidence on like how this thing works, is like they've done studies on like basketball, right? They've taken like groups of newbies, people that have never played basketball before, and they've had one group train 20 minutes every day just shooting the basketball. Then they've had the other group visualize them throwing the basketball into the hoop. And I think when they did some kind of final analysis, like the group that was imagining for 20 minutes, they didn't touch a basketball, but they just imagined themselves shooting and scoring every day for 20 minutes. They outperformed the people who are actually physically practicing. Like, it's insane, right? But yeah, visualizations. You want to visualize yourself being that guy, right? Like everything to the finest detail. You want to picture, like I said, you really want to take advantage of the fact that your brain can't tell the difference between an imagined experience and a real life experience. And if your imagined experience is vivid enough, that's when your brain can't tell the difference. So visualize every day, 30 minutes for 21 days. Visualize yourself like being your ideal self, what they would do from start to finish during the day, right? And then that's how you change your mentality. But yeah, I'm going back to the topic, right? Like the day you stop being so desperate for love is the day it'll find its way to you. That's just how life works in general. You know, the Bible talks about seek ye first the kingdom of God and all these things shall be added to you. And by the way, you should seek first the kingdom of God and all these things shall be added to you. But taking that lesson and making it adjacent to what we're speaking about here, like I said, you know, as a guy, if you really want to like find love, right? If you've been that guy you've been on self-improvement for however long, but you've kind of just been shutting yourself in, oh, I'm working on myself, bro. I'm working on myself, whatever, and you're finding you're like, I still want a girlfriend and I don't have one or whatever, right? It's one of those things where you need to focus on your craft, but like you need to hit a new level, and you also need to be building your social skills on the side. Like I said, mentality shift. Tommy Shelby, James Bond, Harvey Specter, whatever it is, like be like them, right? And adjacent to what I said about the seek ye first the kingdom of God and all these things shall be added to you, it's a similar thing, right? Stop focusing on love and like all these little things that you want in your life that'll make you happy or whatever. Like focus on the really important things, right? The things that take time to build, the things that build your substance as a man, right? Focus on your craft, your career, whatever it is, and all these other things shall be added to you. But yeah, you guys let me know what you think of the section of the topic in the comment section below. And make sure you subscribe to join the Self Improvement Brotherhood. And until next time, I'll see you boys.